Hey guys, welcome back. Another week at Dispersed Church. I'm Kara,
And I'm Luke.
and I still don't know what to do with my hands. So,
That's okay, but we're here
yes, we
doing
are.
things with our
Perfect.
hands,
What are
talking with.
we talking about this week, Luke?
Today, we are not talking about hands. We
No.
are talking about justice,
Oh,
which is a really big concept. There's a
that's
lot loaded
mm,
into that word.
yes.
So, justice, what do we
Mm,
do with it? We, again, are Christians coming at things from a particular Christian perspective.
yes.
And so, we're going to talk about a Christian conception of justice and what it is, what
Mm,
it maybe isn't, and God's role in justice in
yeah.
all.
And for those of you who might be new or have skimmed through a couple of our other videos, we're just trying to take this from not a different approach because we are Christians, but whatever experience you've had with Christians in the past, especially if it was a negative one, we're sorry. We hate that that's happened, but we're just trying to bring a different perspective that's also a Christian perspective and still biblical and still gospel, but one with love and kindness. So thanks for joining us today.
Yeah,
Justice.
justice. I think a lot of times we are much better at naming injustice than we are at explaining justice.
Yes.
So
Mm,
there's a lot loaded into that. But I
yes.
don't think you have to work really hard to convince anyone that we live in a world full of injustice
Yes.
or that people do wrong to other people
Mm,
or that often those people who do wrong end up in positions of power over people and continue to perpetuate those wrongdoings.
mm.
So we're really good at recognizing injustice for what it is, and we sometimes I think have a harder time explaining what justice would be. We know what's wrong, we don't necessarily know what's right.
Yeah, and I think too, when we talk about just call it what it is, go ahead and bring out like the super polarizing issues of today, it's very easy to call out the injustices in the political world in that nature and but then like okay, well how do we fix that? What's the policy that we put in place to right this wrong? And then it starts a whole nother domino effect of things.
Yeah,
It's tough.
it really is. So, as Christians, we actually have this belief that God is deeply concerned with justice, and that one of the things
Mm,
that happens when Jesus comes, and we believe that Jesus is God and comes to make things right. Jesus comes to put the world to rights, to put the way that it was supposed to be, which is
mm,
a world of justice. So, from a biblical perspective, we've talked, I think, a little bit about how there's, if you're unfamiliar with the Bible, there's an Old Testament and a New Testament. They're both ancient documents. The Old Testament was written in the Middle East a long, long time ago. It's written in Hebrew, so a different language. The New Testament was written kind of around the time of the Roman Empire, and it's written in Greek. So, two different languages, centuries apart. It's kind of a library of books from different writers, but we
mm.
believe that God is speaking through them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so in Hebrew, if we like start this line of thinking there, this is that kind of shared tradition we have with Judaism. The words for justice and righteousness or right living in Hebrew are actually really closely related. So in Hebrew, to talk about living justly would actually be to live rightly.
Mm.
So you can't be a person living rightly apart from being a person who lives justly.
Imagine that.
So
Yeah.
that's kind of where this train of thought starts. And then we talked about humanity in our last video
Mm.
and how Christians have this belief that all humans are of infinite value because you're made in the image of God. We hold that belief super seriously.
Yes.
So if you continue that thread into the New Testament, that means that when we get to how people ought to be treated, it's of people of infinite value and
Mm.
worth, and that should have kind of a hold on how we live in the world.
Yeah. One of the cool things that I think as Christians we live like Christ. We try to live a life that Jesus did and have actions that he would have might have had, uh so one of the things that I think is cool to bring up that Jesus he flips the script when it comes to like women in society, how they
Oh,
were
say more.
me, a woman? No. How they were viewed very poorly, didn't have a lot of, which, if you haven't guessed by now, Luke definitely has more of like the historical, intellectual, and I'm just but
Don't sell yourself short.
Thank you. Thank you. You don't sell yourself short. No. But like, I think the history, the context, the women, they just didn't have a lot. They weren't given a lot, but Jesus restores that. If you look at the like the religious aspects of being clean and unclean, which you can side Google that later, open up a new tab and look at that. Jesus makes that right, and he heals them and makes them new. People back then who were born blind or had maybe some other deformities, they couldn't walk. It was maybe like, well, what was your sin? What did your parents do for you to deserve that? And he made that new. And he one thing that he said, it wasn't that this person sinned, it was so that God's glory could be displayed, and so that that could be made known. Like, wow.
Yeah.
And Jesus flips the script in so many different ways with that. So
Yeah, he comes to make things right. So in the New Testament, there are 4 Gospels. That's Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. I'm going to read out of John today. So I'm going to read just 3 verses and kind of talk about what they mean. So this is John chapter 3 and then verses 19 through 21. So if you were to Google this later, you would type John and then the number 3, a colon, and then the numbers 19-21. That's how you would look that up if you wanted to. And I'm going to read this. So this is the verdict. Light has come into the world, but people love darkness instead of light because their deeds were evil. Everyone who does evil hates the light and will not come into the light for fear that their deeds will be exposed. But whoever lives by the truth comes into the light so that it may be seen plainly that what they have done has been done in the sight of God. So this is kind of a summary statement of Jesus has come to do these things. John is basically saying Jesus is light. Jesus is the light of the world. It's kind of one of the themes throughout John. And this light has come to expose the wrongdoing and to put things right and to correct things. And there are people, pretty much all of us, who do things in secret that we don't want exposed. There are the things that we don't want people to know. I think I was actually listening to Anti-Hero by Taylor Swift today.
I'm a Swiftie. I'm just gonna call it what it is. I love Taylor
I
Swift.
don't know that I can fully confess to being a Swiftie, but Anti-Hero is a great song.
Yeah, yes.
So, but like, even I think someone like Taylor Swift recognizing like, hi, it's me, I'm the problem, it's me.
Yes. Yeah, I think sometimes it can be, earlier you talked about how it's very easy to point out injustices in the world. Great, major or minor, it can be very easy to be like, you're wrong.
Yeah.
Whoa, look at that person over there. And it can be very difficult to look in the mirror and have an honest...
Stare directly into the sun, but not in the mirror.
Yes. To look at yourself and to think like, where are my shortcomings? What am I doing? What do I need to work on right now?
Yeah.
And it can be very difficult to do that. However...
Yeah, Jesus has come to expose those things and to put them right.
And I think expose, that verbiage, I almost think of this like, gotcha, whoa, like, or the deer in the headlights, or this like nothing, ooh, I saw that, whoa. But
Gotcha.
I don't think it's in that sense. I think in my own faith and in my own life, I would say the more that I am like living Christ-like, so what am I doing to grow in my faith? What am I doing to, as I read the Bible, as I pray, as I worship, as I spend time in community with other believers, those things are things that also shine lights. And it's not these gotcha moments. It's that as I'm living life with people, or as I'm reading the Bible, I'm thinking, man, do my actions live up to this? When we get these moments that say Proverbs, the Proverbs 31 woman, or the righteous will, or the wise will, or the foolish will, like, ooh, when I read about the foolish, it can be very easy to think of I know someone like that, but it's also very challenging to think, man, I've done that. I've lived that life, or I've walked that road. And as exposing as that might be, I think that's also the beauty of Jesus, that he's never gotcha. This is how you're living. This is how I'm calling you to live. Let's do that together. Let's live
Yeah.
that life. Let's flip the script and let's live in this new way, the right way,
Yeah. So in like Christian theological language, we would talk about this as sin, which is a very loaded word throughout Christian history. I think the definition I lean into most comes from Augustine, who is an African theologian who lived a long, long time ago. He actually has had a tremendous impact on Western culture.
Yeah.
But he has this definition that sin is really love out of order. So it's when I get my loves in the wrong order, that's sin. And so as Christians, we believe that our love of God should be like our first prime love. God deserves all of our love. God made us. God loves us. God died for us.
Yeah.
So God should be our first love. And then it's our love of others, our love of self,
Wow.
our love of things, like down
Yes.
here. So the problem comes in when we get those mixed up.
Yeah.
So if we put our love of self over our love of others, that's selfishness. That's what we call that.
Yeah.
That's when we begin to perpetrate injustice. That's when we do harm to other people. That's when we live selfishly, act selfishly,
Yeah.
all those things. So to use this kind of language of Jesus comes to put things right, one of the things that Jesus does is helps us get our love in the right order. So I think about that.
Yeah.
And then to continue this into the justice conversation, another great Christian thinker is Martin Luther King Jr. Great man. One of the things he has famously said is justice is love in public. And so injustice is our public love out of order.
Wow.
I think about that. So it's when we perpetrate our basically disordered love on society.
Yeah.
And God comes to restore those things and put those right. And as Christians, we believe that that is happening now through the ordering of individuals' lives, which hopefully then transforms society. But we believe there's a day when Christ will come and right every wrong, and make everything right.
Yeah.
So I talk with my hands. I hit my microphone. Our producer told me not to do that.
Yes. I started out the video with I don't know what to do with my hands, so I'm clutching them here but yeah, no, it's cuz I think of again, like to the Christians who have wronged you or who have been toxic or the church hurt that you're bringing as you watch this video. I'm sorry again. I think it can be very easy for that love out of order to think I know it's right. I'm going to do this, but then okay, think about how that is perceived. Think about the actions that you're doing that in. What does that look like? So
yeah. And as a Christian, I'm still working on getting my love in the right order.
Oh my gosh.
And I think that's something I'm going to have to work on until the day I die.
Yeah. It's literally it's something that it's a daily choice. It's a daily, like my friends, I'm single, but my friends that are married, we talk about it's a choice to be married. It's a choice to stay married. The way you it's a choice to stay friends. So you are trying to add value to that friendship. You're trying to spend time together. You're trying to better yourselves. You're trying to do something to serve them, to show them that you love them. They're doing the same back to you. It's the same way in our walk with God and in our, as we grow our faith, what are we doing to live that out? What are we doing to be the light in the world? What are we doing? Read the last verse again.
But whoever lives by the truth comes into the light, so that it may be seen plainly that what they have done has been done in the sight of God.
Yeah, so that way we can show our actions in the light and put the love back in order, I think.
Yeah. So this week, think about the order that you have your love in, and is it the order you want it to be in? As you encounter injustice, as you think about the things that you do wrong yourself, try to think about it through that lens. And we would love to have a conversation with you. So feel free to leave us a message, drop a comment, and then please hit that like and subscribe if you haven't already. We'd love to keep up with you.
Yes. Thanks for joining us this week.